Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank Podcast. It's a special episode. I'm here with a guy who has the most amazing name in the world. His name is Rob Lee.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for welcoming me on to the show, to the podcast, and down to chop it up.
I love the name, Rob.
Yes, it is. It is. It's. I'm a junior, and that's the thing. So, like, are you in the States or are you in Canada? I'm not quite sure.
Me?
Yes.
I'm in Ocean City, Maryland, man.
Oh, my guy. So with it, like, we have this funny thing because I'm a junior. And we have the whole, like, Robert Lee. Our family used to fuck with us and say, oh, yeah, that's Robert E. Lee. And I was like, don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't do that in mixed company. And it was one of those things where my dad would hear it, and he's, like, in his 60s, so it means something different. I was like, look, you're not bringing that down. Junior's not getting that weird treatment. I'm not getting that. It's funny. In my household, we don't really do nicknames. So Rob is my nickname somehow.
I had to do nicknames in my household because on my whole dad's side of the family is everyone has like the same name basically. My dad's been going by Skip Dixon for like 40 something years. Like nobody calls him, like all our original names are Robert Robertson, which is like if you hate your kid, that's what you name them. And I remember my dad, we went to go see Fat Albert in theaters, and he was like, you know, the one good thing about our last name? And he goes, Fat Albert, his real last name is Robertson. I'm like, oh, man, that just completely changed everything for me. But like, it's me. I go by Robbie. There's my dad goes by Skip. There's my grandpa goes by Rocky. I'm like, I would fucking love that name out of everything, Rocky.
Yeah. My brother has he has like a his name is Rudy, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, your name just kind of sounds cool. Sounds like, if we were the Ninja Turtles, he's Michelangelo of our group. You know what I mean?
That's literally what I would name my 4 kids when I have them, is going to be named after the Ninja Turtles. Because you're not messing with a kid named Leonardo. It's not happening.
No, you're a smart man as well.
It's like when if a bear breaks into a class, you turn to the kid that's named Beowulf to save your life.
Right. It's like you're equipped to do this. You're equipped to get down and get busy when it comes to this Earth sign menace.
I would prefer, like, I don't understand people that name their kid like Joe or something. I'm like, why don't you name them something like extraordinary to the point, like when the teacher calls on it, they have to take a double take, like, what did your parents name you? Like, your name is Crayola? It's like, holy shit.
Well, I mean, with the state of affairs currently, I mean, we're going to have some children named COVID and Corona. It's not going to be great. It's going to be short versions. Call me Cove,
Call me Cove. That is perfect.
See, Ron is in there,
What really hit me is I had a guy who studies history, and he started telling me the fact that, like, this is going to be taught in schools now, like this COVID situation, how we survived this 2020 pandemic and all that. And I'm like, that's so weird. I never thought I'd be in the history books for that. I figured I'd have to do something like pretty bad, like shoot up a school or something.
Wow. Well, I mean, I work in the kind of academic spectrum, what have you, and I want to say when we were updating our course offerings for the summer, it was several COVID classes in there because I work in a public health school. So it just became like, this is the news right now. This is something you need to be aware of right now. And just many people who have any training or any, like, I guess, knowledge around public health, they were calling us to get their credentials to say, like, yeah, I did graduate, so they can go in and be a part of the relief efforts.
Yeah. Well, before we dive down real into this, I want you to promote your podcast and everything. Let people know where you're from.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you. I'm Rob Lee from Mastermind Team's Robcast, and I'm from Baltimore, East Baltimore to be specific. We get busy here. Whatever that means.
We know the definition of a motherfucking crab feast is what we're talking about.
Yes. Did a show. I do 2 shows actually every week. I do Mastermind Team's Robcast, and that's been going on for 11 years actually. We talk weird news, pop culture, entertainment. It's me and my best friend, co-host Dan D. We've been killing it. We're coming up on our 300th episode, and I'm trying to stretch it so that we're able to maybe do it as a live show, but I have a contingency option for episode 300 to be something special instead of just being some fucking watered down mid-grade at-home podcast. And the other show that I do is called Getting to the Truth in This Art, where I interview different entrepreneurs and artists in and around Baltimore to kind of show the unique personalities that are here, kind of humanize this. Because, when someone just uses a place, there's no context with it. You don't really notice people. You notice how it's presented in the news or presented in popular media, but you don't really get an idea of, oh, that person is into this anime or that person is a painter. So I like to kind of talk to these creative and these people that got good shit going on. And I've been doing that for about a year, actually. So that's like the 2 podcasts that I do weekly.
That's awesome.
And
It's literally what I try to do with this podcast, is just highlight those people. I'm like, everybody deserves conversation. I mean, I think we've kind of noticed through COVID, like social distancing, how much we actually really need to be around people. But every time we come into an interaction, it's fucking terrible. Like everybody gives autopilot answers or does all this stuff. I'm like, the one good thing I think we pulled out of this thing, hopefully, is the fact that there might be a way to get more people to know what a crab feast is, like sitting down and hanging with your friends and really kind of just letting the conversation go.
well, it's funny you say that, like the notion and I think the parameters around a crab feast, right? Like one thing that I'm into in terms of like even in the podcast, and I'll kind of touch on that point, is I get into the minutia of things. I really get caught in. I was like, oh yeah, this is what this means. This is what's around it, and the notion of crab feast is essentially like you're breaking bread. You're, like you said, you're having conversations with people. You're getting to know people. You're having these human interactions with people, and you're absolutely right, nail on the head, that with COVID and how things have gone, you have to find different ways to do it. Sometimes it's harder because of how this bill of goods that we bought, of like how social media works, and the world is broad, but at the same time, we're not really comfortable with interacting with people. Case in point, I want to say maybe the second weekend of just being in quarantine, and we shut down on March 16th, what have you. So second weekend, I fell asleep in the studio after like being up watching anime all night, and I got a weird call on my phone. And it was like an Instagram call. And I was like, this is so weird. So I didn't answer it. Then they called again, and it was some dude that was in Spain. And he's like, my best friend looks just like you. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. Who are you? And I chopped it up with him for a few minutes, and that gave me a fair amount of energy. It's just like you're inside, you're not talking to people, you're not getting that feedback. And talking to someone that is in a different part of the world, and they just seem to be interested in having a brief exchange with me, that was really cool, and there's a lot of energy there.
I've had a few calls like that. I like those calls better than the calls I get that's like, hi, is this Janine? It's like, no. And it's like, I think you have the wrong number. It's like, well, maybe you can help me. I'm like, sounds like she's got tits. I can't help you. And like, it's always like when you're doing something like you're bringing in groceries or you're like taking a shit. And it's like, this is the worst time. I don't want you calling me. But it's strange. Before COVID happened, like 6 months, 7 months before, I had talked to a stockbroker in a podcast.
Sure.
And I was like, I bet the safest stock to invest in is toilet paper. It never goes up and it never goes down. And he goes, yeah, he goes, if you wanted to play it safe, I'd invest in toilet paper. Then COVID hits, and next thing you know, I'm like, I should have fucking invested in that stock. Like, everyone's wiping their ass. But a good conversation I got into was with a woman that called me doing a survey on the CDC, like a telemarketer type thing.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll answer all your questions if you can answer me one question. And it was a thing I heard when I was a child. My buddy's uncle used to work for the CDC, and in their training pamphlet, they actually had a thing on how to deal with infectious diseases that might contaminate someone. So AKA zombies. And I heard that, and I was like, is that true? And he was like, yeah, it is. And I got to see the proof. I got to know the proof for myself. I'm not the whole skeptic type guy, but. And then I was talking to the CDC woman. She's like, what's your one question? And I said, I'm going to answer your stuff, but I want to know, is there a thing in your training manual on how to deal with zombies? And she goes, I am not at whatever. I don't have the knowledge to be able to give you that information. And it was just so professional. Or I was like, you just fucking answered my question.
I'm not at liberty to reveal that information.
Exactly.
then one of the things I was actually thinking about it before I got on with you, and I was thinking about like different things, like people as far as like this period of time, like if you look at it, you'll see vegetation growing, animals coming back, shit like that weird fucking shit. There's been alligators in Baltimore. I've seen different birds here. It's like, wow, what is that an eagle? Did that come out of extinction or whatever?
It's a
And
red-crusted dove.
right. And you'll see that different things in vegetation, air quality is a little better and so on. And then we're kind of back to people fucking being shitty. But I'll say the world to some degree got a bit of a breather, a bit of a respite. And I think that's a sign that we are, as people, we're caught in this fucking rat race. We're just going to whatever the next thing is. We're not stopping to smelling the roses. So during this time, I've been able to fucking do a few things, like check out shows that I've just been fucking like waiting on and just like not getting around to, and learning new skills and so on. And it's just like making myself like kind of better while being inside and not looking at it as fuck, I can't do what I want to do. Fuck, I can't go buy this pizza from this place. Like my favorite place isn't open. I can't hang out with my friends. I've been trying to add different things, like for instance, start taking a course in Python. I started watching like old 80s, like
What's a fucking course in Python? Stop on that one. Are you talking about snakes?
Python is a programming language. So a lot of these websites are using it or what have you. And I'm a data analyst in real life. So it will help me do probably a couple hours of work in a few minutes. So I'm like, yeah, I can get back to like editing podcasts and things of that nature, just trying to be flexible. Because right now, my work office is my home studio. So it's a motherfucker, I'll tell you that much.
I feel like it's so weird how many people like had to stay home, and then when work had to go back, it was so weird. Like after the first couple of days, everyone's like, "I really miss just being at home and working, like having that ability to."
Mhm.
People are talking about like a second wave and stuff, and I know actually our bank down here had a couple people, 5 people that got tested with it,
Yeah.
so they shut down the whole bank, and they realized, oh, we just had a bunch of people exchange money, so that means it's probably going to be another infection breaking out. And I know Florida has like 5,000 cases that got new discovered or something, but I'm like, people are thinking, do you think that second wave of stimulus checks is going to come by? I'm like, it ain't
Fuck
fucking
no.
happening. We're not recovering after what just happened. And everybody is already like, nope, it's the government's not going to shut down like that again. They're like, that,
No.
that was a mistake for sure.
Once they got to a spot where you talked about stocks a little bit earlier. Once they got to a spot where I'm a person that did the whole stock thing, have stock, have retirement, all of that shit there, and I was freaking the fuck out when I was like, oh, I'm taking major hits. I was like, oh, I just lost like $6,000 this month. This isn't great. And as things started to rebound, I'm like a little bit higher than before this shit started. Like I've already recovered plus some. I'm like, yeah, shit is starting to go back to normal because the engine is running again. Like money is coming in, things are being generated, and it's fuck your health. And I am a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, and it's like,
Thank you,
I
because I was
guess.
just about to ask that if you were a conspiracy nut. Because what I'm thinking, honestly, I have one giant theory that I want everyone out there
Spin it.
listening to know, that if they'd make a vaccine, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'm saying I've seen I Am Legend, and I'm saying wait 6 months on that shit. Just wait 6 months, and then don't be the first guy to get it. But I'm saying is, it's really weird because I had a gym I've gone to every single day for 8 years, and it closed down when they got the new owners, couldn't qualify for the pandemic package, whatever it is. It's like a
Yeah.
fucking insurance plan, and it's like they give you money or something. So they didn't qualify. I just recently got a new job at a new gym, wearing their hoodie, repping it.
Gang, gang.
So it's like kind of like, seems like the perfect gig, but it's that inner reflection. Like, I don't know if I want to still do that anymore. I don't know
Mhm.
what's going on. A lot of it took to people starting their own home businesses. But my conspiracy kind of thought is, I've talked to for years, since like episode 90 of this thing, was the fact of, and I talked to a rabbi, and he shot me down, and a week later it all came true, because what happened was, I talked about the government is afraid of two things. It's the people, and then also religion. They never touch religion because religion's too old and too powerful. But
Sure.
as we're seeing with Trump and all these immigrants that are coming in, come over. I'm happy for it. But the thing is, now Christianity and being Catholic isn't the dominant religion anymore. So actually, at this point in our history, it's at an all-time low.
Okay.
So we have more people that are like, I don't know what to believe in. I just choose not to have a religion or choose not to worship in a church anymore. So they're not as strong. When I was telling this to the rabbi guy, he goes, okay. He goes, what's your point? I go, now you're noticing that churches are being broken up by government. They're tearing up churches. They're moving them out, switching locations, saying you got to get your shit and leave because we want this property, which they've never done before. He didn't believe me. A week later, after that podcast uploaded, I sent him an article. The Vatican, 4 priests got arrested for some shady priest business. And I
Right.
told him, I was like, they're afraid of the church and they're afraid of people. When the people rise up, the government doesn't know what to do, so they try and distract us. I think what was happening is with the whole COVID situation, I'm not saying it's not an illness, but I think where it got blown way out of proportion, everyone thought it was going to be this thing, I was going to black plague. I think it was a way of them testing their strength and seeing if they can get you to stay in your home and you'll listen.
Well, uh, the root of it, yes. I think it's that thing where it's almost like a focus group. What's the most? How many things can we take away from these people, these creature comforts that this lifestyle we've defined and we designed for them to be very convenient and all of this shit. The fact that we have advertisements, we have all of these different things to kind of sustain these creature comforts that we have, but ultimately keep your ass in the fucking house. Ultimately, it's boogie. There's a scary thing that you can't see, so be in constant fear. Further, I don't know how it is out there in OC, but like down here, like there's a litany of fucking illegal fireworks going off every night, like from maybe 11 to like
Is it the
2 a.m.
riots?
I don't know if it's that because it's not been really wild here. It was like maybe 2 days and then protesting and then that was that. But since then, it's just been an influx of illegal fireworks, like things that aren't supposed to be popping up in residential areas. And I'm like, they're creating this, whoever is creating this idea of fear. And you start hearing loud booms. You don't know if it's guns, you don't know if it's explosions, but for hearing them for hours, you're not sleeping. We all know that if you're not sleeping properly, your mental sharpness isn't there.
I'm an insomniac, so you're preaching to the choir here, man.
It's same. So you have that thing going on, and I don't know. It's just like it's these different tests of how far can we stretch this, and even going back to it a bit. Like I had a joke earlier. I was like, yo, like who the fuck is paying for these like fireworks? Like we only got $1,200. So I mean, did it go to like 3 months rent and fireworks? How did that happen? Like what are the fireworks going for? What's happening here?
It's that unemployment package. What they did with that pandemic, you get that extra 600 on your unemployment. Next thing you know, you're getting like $900,000 a week or something.
All I know is it's about what 12% of the population that's like just waiting for that money, waiting for like unemployment money, like 40 million people that are kind of like not getting their unemployment. Like,
I think
one of my
that's what
co-hosts is one.
I think that's what happened was when everyone was sitting home. It was really strange because I was still sneaking off with the key to my gym. I was still going there, even though cops would I would pull up at 1 o'clock in the morning, hide my car in the back, and a cop would pull up. I felt like I was a fucking addict, which I am, but it was more like this is what keeps like the demons away. I say, it keeps my mental clarity there, much like a form of podcasting. You're talking with your friends is something everyone kind of has. It's
Totally.
like so I saw a cop pull up to the door, and literally it's not the fact of we want you to stay in your house for the safety of others. Once you get down to the root of it, it was if you don't get in your fucking house, you're going to be fined $5,000.
That was a major deterrent. I like over here in my neck of the woods. Like, here's the wild thing: I am a 10-minute walk from my office, so like my actual job. And I was like, I could go in. I remember when all of this shit first started. They first started talking about it, and I was just like, we're not paying any mind to this. And I was like, okay, yeah, everybody blamed leadership, and that's fine, but where like I said, where I work at, I was like, none of y'all took this seriously, and you do this professionally. So what is happening here? And we have the gym in the building upstairs, the fitness center, and I just remember I was in there like every day, banging weights, doing my fucking thing, and I was like, I'm probably gonna get sick. I don't know what's gonna happen here. I was like, I'm just doing my normal like 45-hour workout, and it's like I'm just saying fuck it. I'm just taking the shot. But once the influx of like police traffic was around here, I was like, I'm not even going to attempt to walk to my office. I'm just gonna stay here. And it's like like I said, it's a 10-minute like walk from my job. And I was like, why did I see 8 police cars? Like, that's a lot of traffic just hanging out, like not doing anything, just hanging out.
Yeah, I was at my job I used to work at the casino during the pandemic when it was first popping off. Like the first month, I was still going to work.
Yeah.
Everyone else was still in home or trying to figure out what to do because everything was shut down. Walmart was closing, all these other types of things. Casino's still open because they carry money there. So I'm part of security. You have to watch the money. It doesn't matter if anybody can come in or not. Doors are locked. I'm sitting there standing, telling people, "Go the fuck home." Oh,
Get out of here.
You guys aren't open? Why would a casino be open when Walmart's closed? He goes, "I just thought you guys would be open." I'm like, "You're just like me with the gym, bro. You're addicted. Move on."
People are fucking insane. Like, I go to this coffee shop in the city, and just like going back to one of the things from earlier, having that personal contact. Like, you're buying from a small business, and your regulars. And you want to have a quick conversation because you're not seeing them regularly. You're not having that normal exchange you'd have. So, me and the guy, we're chopping it up or what have you. And some fucker, because the cafe's like you had to go downstairs, like down the steps. So you can see who's like waiting and queuing in the line. You can see their feet, their shoes, and so on. You see some fucker just tapping the window, and the barista guy that owns the place, he's usually really mild mannered. He's like, "Shut the fuck up." And I was like, "My man." I was like, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about losing customers. He's in it. And it's a really challenging like period for these business owners. Like, I in doing that podcast I talked about earlier, Getting to the Truth in This Art, I've made friends in that community with, different restaurant owners, like the owners, not like some dude that works there, but like legitimately the owners, and getting their stories and trying to do as much as I can do, whether it be buy gift cards, whether it be interview them, whether it be to draw some kind of traffic to their places. And places are closing, places are losing their identities. And that's been one of these byproducts, I think, of the last, how many months? How many months are we at this point? I don't know how many months we're at.
We're like 3.5, I would say.
Time doesn't matter anymore, Robbie.
Damn it. Not doing enough with the amount of time I have. I'm 22 years old and I still don't have a statue.
You're 20. I'm 35. I am fucking washed.
You look young.
Well, thank you. It's those black jeans. And I showered before I got here.
Dude. Oh, my. All right. So there's this guy I used to work with at a hotel. I called him my black dad because he was the guy that gave me wisdom out of anything. His name's Darrell. Shout out to him. He looked 20 and he was 60 something. I swear to you. And he goes, "Black doesn't crack." Now I understand what that meant.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, we always joke, my buddy Demaco's Dan, because he's a year older than me, and I was like, "Yeah, so how's it feel being 48?" He's like, "Fuck you, Rob," and I was like, "I see that gray kind of creeping out of your follicles, sir."
That touch of gray, huh?
He gets so mad, and it's really funny to me.
See, I look at like everything that's kind of shutting down and kind of like going back to like the pandemic a little bit is more of the fact of like, I really like what you were saying about interviewing and talking to these business owners, because I think I've done the same thing and I've gotten to these given home entrepreneur, hot sauce companies. I have a sub named after me. If I literally, here's my plan. If I am going to travel, which I planned on doing either like the next month or so, I'm going to 10 different states in 2 different countries. I'm stopping by to see David from High Spoon Cereals. I'm going to stay there. I told him we're going to eat a bowl of cereal in person.
Shout out to David.
Yep. I have a sub named after me. I have all these other things. And it wasn't like I asked for it. It was more like just having a conversation and realizing there's people out there. I think that's what's important, or why I'm like support small businesses or do these types of things, is because you get to hear these stories. You get to find other people in your community. I mean, I live in a beach town, tourist attraction spots, always new business popping off left and right. But I'm like, it's fucking awesome to talk to people and hear the inspiration behind it. It doesn't matter if you have a million PhDs or none at all. Anybody's welcome on here, just because the factor of we got an ability to have a conversation. That's what we need to bring back, I think. I'm like, the reason why we're all pissed off and negative all the time is because we're not happy of where we're at in our own lives, or we got something going on that we're taking out on somebody else. I'm like, we need more businesses to say, "Go fuck yourself," when someone tries to ask for like a triple espresso shot with a Frappuccino unicorn sprints or something. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing all that.
Well, here's the thing, though. I don't want you to get past it too far. What's on the sub? What's the sub first?
Well, so he wanted wanted to figure out what a vegan sub was, and I'm not vegan at all, but I was
Okay.
like, why don't you just do a pasta sub? He's like, what's that? I'm like, you take the little blow whistle noodles, the little circular ones that you blow
Yeah.
in. You just use white marinara sauce or something and put it on a cheesesteak sub, but without the cheese. Just do that.
Yeah.
Bam, there you go. It gives him that crunch like it's real steak meat because he's a steak sub. Shout out to Vinny, but he's a
Yeah.
steak sub food truck. So it was like, there you go. Like that's your vegan option. So he made that. And then like we talk about connecting people.
Yeah.
My buddy who's a food reviewer, Matt Fulmer, he met a dude who owns a food truck in the same state as him. They met through my podcast and then had one of his food and tried it. I was like, it made me feel so fucking good. I was
Yeah.
like, this is what it's about. I don't talk to people in my everyday life. I correct people on bullshit in my everyday life. I'll come across like somebody in like a 12 item or less and they're screaming and yelling at someone. And I just look at them. I think from the psychology aspect, like you probably have a lot going on right now. But then if you end up snapping, I'm like, do you need to do this, bro? Like, do you need to do it right here? And then someone's like tugging on you. Don't do it. Don't do it.
That's the lane. And like, you know, I think I was like telling David or what have you, like I'm a 6'4", 300-pound black man. So I have a very intimidating message if I roll up on you. And I the thing about me is I have minimal tolerance for like goofy shit. And usually I'll see people doing shit, just making it about themselves. And you've touched on it. You know, just, yeah, I'm special. I need this, this, and this. And it's like, yeah, do you need all of it? Do you need to be behaving in this way? And I don't know. Like, I just think like my lane is, you're not going to do that. I'd rather correct people.
It's the person you see that I saw on Facebook last night, Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen thing when it was live and he's yelling at all the chefs.
Yeah.
Girl comes and goes, what do you mean our food isn't ready? Like we're hungry. And like that's the shit that gets me. I'm like, why are you acting like you do not have a brain? There's no way anybody is that stupid. Even if you were grown on $1 million, there's a ploy in there. There's a week. I want to give everything handed to me. And then like, he like cussed at me when I asked when my food was going to be ready. I'm like, oh God, you blonde. And I just want to, it's a bad name, bro. Like I can't stand those people. Like the other day in Ocean City, the weird part about what's happening now is why I asked about the riots is because the people, Ocean City is a tourist town. So we get people from all over, which our numbers of COVID have skyrocketed since people from PA everywhere have been coming down and infecting. I mean, during spring break or whatever, when that week was, when they were telling them not to come by, 28 kids got infected. Now it's affecting all of our local people. I think we have a total of like a couple hundred in Maryland and just Worcester alone. The numbers are going up and up. But when it comes to like Baltimore, DC, what's going on over there is they decided to come here as well. And our cops are not equipped to handle that type of violence, that type of people. They're used to an old guy or something. They're used to a young kid trying to skateboard, don't skateboard. Now it's like we had someone get arrested with an AK-47 in their car, 5 people that were just drunk. I saw them in Walmart parking lot, literally feet out the window, parked, which is okay, but beer bottles everywhere around the car. And the cops like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Well, here's the thing that again, here's a conspiracy thing that I've made a few friends that kind of know some of the inner workings of shit, that have like, you know, are able to tap into scanners and all of this fucking shit. And one of the things, I think it's like a culling that's happening. Like, you know, Dan and I talked, I think on a podcast at one point, and he's like, if this whole age thing, the way that it was kind of presented, as far as like who COVID was really focusing on, like who's at the highest risk, it's like, well, if you're going after people who are 65 and older, like their usability, it's fucked up. I'm not going to say it's not. Their usability in terms of running this engine, running this economy is limited. If we can get them out of the way, they're going to require more resources. If we can get them out of the way, here's a disease that's going to attack people who are the unredeemable, if you will. It's fucked up, but that's the way it looked initially. And I was like, this is a new world order feeling kind of thing. But one thing that's been floating around recently, so any city has a fair amount of like people who are homeless, home insecure, but I'll just say homeless, that are on the street or what have you.
They're called expert minimalists.
Nice. And that's good.
I had a
And
homeless person say that to me. He's like, "I'm an expert minimalist." I was like, "You fucking god, you're good, man. You're good."
so it's like here's $1, sir. One of the things I've seen is there's a lot less out in the street than there usually are. And if the notion is we want to clean up the city and we can just get rid of homeless people, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a conspiracy to just get rid of homeless people, because I've heard different stories from different cities that they found groups of homeless people in abandoned buildings dead.
Have
And
you looked up anything about the biomedical tissue services of Japan?
I have not. I would like to be enlightened, though.
They would like to take a van. They would drive around and take 50 people from each town, and they use them to test on them and severely do experiments. Worse, there's a thing that's worse than the Nazis called Unit 731.
Okay.
You ever seen the movie Snowpiercer?
I have.
Okay, you know when the dude sticks his arm out in the cold and it gets frozen, then they bring it back in and he breaks it
Yeah.
off? They
Yeah.
did that in real life. Unit 731 used to stick people's limbs in different temperature cooling things, and what they would do is they would hit it and get it to the point where it was at such severe frostbite that you could just break it right off.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah, there's a thing they call logging camps, and the people that go there are called logs. So whenever you're reading the journal, like I've studied that, I've studied MK Ultra. There's a point when it's a conspiracy theory, and then there's a point where it's like, oh no, the CIA has it on their fucking website, but all the names are black lines, so you don't know who
Yeah.
the hell did the actual stuff.
Redaction. And the thing that's a really funny thing, I kind of one of the things that really catches me more than anything else as I've gotten older is how two things actually. I think we allow social media to kind of dictate how conversations go, right? um we don't have the real conversation. Like, I think in a real conversation you have some degree of nuance. Someone can say something that might be ill-informed, something that might not be the best take at that time, and they grow and they learn from it. What we do online is we cancel people, we have all of that shit. So that's one thing. But the thing that catches my attention is how we'll be talking about things that we know require due attention. Let's say a house is burning, right? Within the house will still be burning. Within 24 hours, it's raining. Let's just talk about it's raining. We're not focused on this burning house. We don't give a shit about this burning house anymore. But the house is still burning. And just this quick shift, have we just don't give a shit at the end of the day. We just move on to whatever this next thing is. And I don't know if it's partially algorithms, which is one of the reasons why I got interested in using like Python and learning programming languages a little bit. Because it's like, all right, I know this is still happening. I know that people that I know that I follow are still talking about this. Why is this suddenly not trending? Why is this suddenly being filtered out for whatever reason? And this is a source where you can actually learn about said house being on fire. Like, oh, is it a 2-story house? Is it a 3-story house? Are people in there? We just shifted. And the other thing that, like, going back to the nuance thing that's missing, like, I just can't jam with it. Like, in the 10 years, well, 11 years that I've been doing the podcast, I was like, I know I've said some shit as a fucking stupid ass 20 something. Like, I'm, fucking at 24, 25, I didn't have the experience that I have now and the knowledge and the growth that I have now. So someone goes back and says, yeah, well, you said this. I'm like, well, I did. What of it? That's kind of my approach now. But
I felt that I can feel with you on that. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people, and I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I've definitely aged beyond my years. I mean, definitely, I suffer from severe depression. I usually mention I've done recently at least, but I hide it pretty well. I'm pretty good at thinking of. But it's ignorance is the bliss, knowing so much and hearing so much, and it's the problem that I want to give credit to Joe Rogan for this of what he said was the fact of what's going on with everything and everybody. So we're numb to a lot of it because of the fact we're seeing so much of it every single day.
mm-hmm.
And the fact that we're seeing so much of it every single day is why we're assholes to everyone out there in the world, because we're getting, I can handle your problems and you can handle my problems. But then we start diving into Twitter. We start diving into Instagram. We start diving into all these other places. Now you're handling the whole fucking world's problems and you can't do that.
It's normalized. And I recently got back on Twitter because I wanted to be able to vent. Like, my experience is going to be different from anybody else's experience. Everyone has their own unique experience. And, with some of the stuff that's been going on, some of the race stuff that's been going on, and, I have my own different things, even in the office setting, that I talked about. And I just said, I'm just going to post this video real quick just because it was on my mind. And I just had multiple people feel inclined to basically reframe what my experience was. My experience to what my experience was. And I was just like, I don't know if me using this platform is the best place for it. I'm just gonna start venting my musings and venting what I think, and use like Twitter as a sounding board. If people follow me and don't want to follow me, I don't give a shit. And that's what I was using it for. Then I found myself kind of going back into those old habits of, I wonder what's trending in my neck of the woods. Oh shit, horrible things. That's what it is. And I've never like overtly been addicted to something, but I think the closest thing I felt was like, okay, I'm addicted to whatever these negative feelings are, this negative energy that's out there. I want to find, okay, what's this next story? Who else is shitty? Who else is a piece of shit?
It's the reason why World Star Hip Hop was so damn popular. We want to see the violence. We want to see the conflict. I've talked about this. When you don't have conflict in your everyday life, like you go to work, nothing bad happens to you. It's a really average day. You
Yeah.
come home and you look for that somewhere else. What you do is not maybe creating it, but you go Jersey Shore, for instance. You
Yeah.
fucking turn that on. That's why reality television was so popular. You just want to see that conflict because it's the same thing as needed, just like love. But for some reason, we've twisted our minds or programmed them in a way to work off the feedingness. I talk about with a molecular neuroscience. I brought up this thing and it made me seem smart because when I said it in the beginning, it ended up coming full circle, which really boosted my point. But it's like Clash of the Titans, where Hades learned to feed off the negative energy of the people instead of their love and admiration like the rest of the Greek gods.
Sure.
He wasn't as powerful as all them, but he still was able to survive. And that's where we've gone. We've gone with the negativity and all this other types of judging of other people. We've learned to survive off that rather than surviving off the care or love for one another, which brings in the whole point of like, with all like the Black Lives Matter movements that are going on. I tell people straight up, I'm with you. I don't will never know what you experience on a daily basis. And that's all they want. That's all. Like I've been told constantly, you'll never know what I experience. You never know. I'm like, you're right. But I watched a video where a guy was obviously venting into his Instagram and talking about it and all these
Yeah.
things. Then his son walked in the room and it fucking hit me. And I said, that's why I get it now. I'm not going to tackle it from the color perspective. I'm going to tackle it from a parent's perspective. You want the world to be a safer place for him. You want the
Yeah.
world to be, and that's all it is. It's just about taking the time, not to obviously to understand a person's problems, but to obviously care for one another. I mean, we're not fucking doing that with social media. At least
No.
people rather watch a video of like, I don't know, Chef Ramsay yelling at somebody.
But it's so like a lot of these things that are fucked up and that are flawed, they were built that way and they're built on rotted foundation. I think with like how social media works in this, I don't know if the term is gamification, but this, let's just say this reward-based system, right? Of more likes, more follows. And I know in recent years they said they deprecated whether likes actually mean anything. So when I try to promote the podcast or what have you, I don't say do likes, I say do shares, endorse me. Endorsement means something. Like, let's get out of this notion of I liked it, I've done my thing. No, share it. Attach your like brand to it. Attach your followers to it. Like say, look, I like this thing and I'm showing you that I like it instead of just heart emoji, we're good. But I think the way that some of those videos work, like you mentioned WorldStar, like a lot of those sites, when they get reposted, like so on a Facebook, on any of these sites, the traffic that's there, the engagement that's there, it's a trigger. So you might say, this sucks. And that's when you had like all of these trolls and they're just saying wild shit and they're getting response. And it's like, wow, you're growing at an exponential rate. That they're rewarded for bullshit. So if you can just have negative stuff and you just get reactions out of people, wow, I can't believe you punched this person. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Shock and awe, shock and awe. Are those positive or are those negative like responses to it? They don't do that. They don't quantify the quality of the response. They just quantify that there is a response. So that's the way that the algorithms are set up. So you just have this proliferation of the same type of people, and this is a roadmap of this is successful. So case in point, there's parity. You always will see kind of the same thing, a lot of memes, a lot of videos, a lot of things that are kind of drawn to very similar responses. Then you'll see meme daddies and accounts that are posting the same thing because they're looking for the same response. And they feel like they build that's used as a method of success.
Where do you think this all started?
Um,
I can pinpoint it down to a certain moment in time.
I I can't say the moment of time, but when the term influencer became a thing.
Fucking Nick Cannon and Wild and Out. When that show came out, everyone thought they could be cool by being crazy.
Yeah, you have that, like, even if I'll go super old about it, even if you have, like, something like what America's Funniest Home Videos, like that notion of, hey man, look at this wild video, you should check this out, or even the inclination of, hey man, I got this weird video, I want to share it to, I'm going to email to you. We just did it on Facebook now. That's all it is. It's the same thing. How these things kind of become viral. That, like, emailing someone a video, that was the proto version of something going viral.
Let me put that on your MySpace.
Right, hell yeah. And I think I missed a boat on MySpace. I was trying to, like, get girls on MySpace and, like, Black Planet, and
That's
it's
what
like,
you did on MySpace?
I was trying my damnedest.
I slid so good in MySpace. All I did was I downloaded this little widget for the front page where it's a pet wolf,
Yeah.
and I would just feed him steaks all day for hours. So I
Nice.
didn't put up any emo selfies or any of those things that you see classically that get linked to stereotypical MySpace. So I got lucky on that one. I was too young for the boat.
Yeah, like, when I think when I started in college, like, Facebook had just dropped and I stumbled upon it. Like, we were in a computer lab and I was working on some paper, some project, and I was like, what is the Facebook? And that's how OG I am when the was still there. And I was like, oh, it takes your college email. I was like, having a college email, I typed it in, put some stupid ass picture of myself in there, and I kind of ignored it for a few months. And then I came back to it. And I was like, oh, there's girls on here. I was like, oh, hey, I know I'm in this biology class with you. What's your name? And that's the beginning of it. Instead of me going there and talking to this girl who I'm probably sitting in the class with,
yo,
I'm
let me hold your pencil.
Yeah. Yo, what's up with your book? Do you need help studying later? I just hit her on the fucking the Facebook with some terrible message with an old school emoji.
Hey, you want to talk symbiosis?
Yo, real shit? You want to talk about this class we're failing?
See, having computers in class is the dumbest thing you could do. I had a tech class. It was a wood shop class technically, but we were in a tech computer room. So we were using stuff that we're going to print out and then eventually make, or idea and designs. All we did was watch movietube.co and watch free movies all day. I saw the movie Lucy in school. I saw a bunch of shit. I watched the first Sharkeisha video that came out. Sharkeisha, don't hit her. And look,
wow.
This is when I found out Craigslist was a lot more than just selling items. They also sell services.
Yes, they do.
My teacher, Mr. Krant, shout out to him. He knew my brother. He was like, yeah, your brother's into 311, rock on. Ember's the color of your energy. I'm like, all right, dude.
It's a beautiful disaster, bro.
Yeah. I was like, all right, man, fucking great. And, then I showed him, I was like, dude, did you know there's somebody that'll pay you to go over to your house and punch you square in the balls? What? I'm like, look at this. Type in services, type in ball puncher. And then it's this dude, and he has a picture of his testicle. He's like, I'll come to your house and you can punch me right in the nuts. I'm like, you see that? And he goes, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, I'll also show you a video of a girl getting hit in the head with a shovel. And does that mean I won't have homework? He goes, if you can find a video of a girl getting hit in the head with a shovel, you'll have no homework. I fucking showed him. He's like, I lost faith in humanity. I was like, right? We're all fucked up.
Yeah. And I remember, like, the dating became a thing. At one point, I used to do a show on the network called Metrocast, and it was like the more adult version of Robcast, and we were talking usually about relationships and just different things. And one of the things that we were talking about was just how to use some of these dating sites. And I'm not going to really delve into that much, but just, this was mostly like OkCupid, not necessarily the Tinder and all of that shit, because it all seemed really weird, but the OkCupid, and having some desire to have at least base level conversation. And then it's like, yeah, can I grow from here? Can I get to know this person? Can I become a bit of a demisexual? Can I, make friends with them? And then, we kick it or whatever. And I just remember when it took a hit, people just say, yeah, this is the only way I can talk to women now. This is the only way I can find people to hook up with now. And I was like, what happened to the bars? What happened to real life? What happened to interacting with people in real life? And it's like, well, I'm better online. Then it's a persona. You're not being yourself. You're not being a real person. And it always comes true, right? So when you get on there, or when you would get on there, you would say all the shit you need to say. Yeah, man, I like everything that you like, man. I'm into this show. Oh, yeah, man, you know, fucking America's Next Top Model. And when you see you in real life, you're a fucking shitbag because you've been fucking lying the entire time. And, you know, one of the things that I learned actually through therapy, actually, was kind of how to do a little bit of that withdrawal of, you know, you do this people pleasing thing. I'm going to give you what I think you want. That's what I was doing a lot of. This is the Rob I want to present to people because this is the thing that they said they want, or I think they want, instead of just me being me and people just come in, people just interested. Like by virtue of me being me, for sake of argument, I did the podcast with, you know, with David. Now I'm talking to you. Now, if I was trying to present this persona that wasn't kind of close to who I am, as far as the podcast, everybody's a little amplified for a podcast, I think, I would be on something that really doesn't fit my brand. I would be on something that I'm not comfortable doing. It would be fake. It would be inauthentic.
That's the whole point I did this and why I use this your real name. Like, I'm pretty sure you come across the podcasting community. There's the people out there that just want to shit on other shows or do whatever. I've had people come on that don't want to use their real name, and then they'll talk shit on me. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm sorry. That's how my show goes. I'm sorry you didn't listen to the show before you decided to come on. If you want to play an act, that's wonderful. First thing when I started doing this, my parents work radio. They go, do you want to use, you know, do you want to do radio or do you want a podcast? I want to do a podcast. I'm going to try and build this up on my own. First thing I had to decide, was I going to talk like myself, or was I going to go, you're listening to another episode? And I'm like, I can't do that. So I thought I might as well be real and authentic. And that was the whole point. This is outside. Honestly, I'm probably less talkative. I just learned to watch more now. When I even through DMing or something, it's all so simple. Okay. It seems like I'm not interested. It's not that. It's just, I don't like being on my fucking phone. I feel chained to the shit too much. I hate doing the messages because you can never understand if someone's being a dick or not. Everyone assumes you're being an asshole. I mean, I'm pretty sure when I invited you, you thought I was going to be like, what's this guy about? Why is he messaging me? What's his podcast about? Is he going to attack me? That's what everyone fucking thinks. And I'm like, I'm not. I just want to fucking talk.
I mean, I have the skills that like I said, I've been doing it long enough. I'm like, if someone's an asshole, I'm going to be able to suss it out relatively soon. But I have no problem with going on the podcast. The only time that, because I think I've started doing more of these guest slots at least during this period of time, and just linking up with people and meeting people, and, you know, hey, I like what you do, here, repost or what have you, endorse your shit because I like what you do.
Hey, you're sexy, let me get you on my podcast.
And I remember I got on this one podcast, and the guys framed themselves as being conspiracy theorists, and I was like, cool. And then I get on there and it's just full MAGA cast, and I was like, I think you got the wrong person. What? Like, I wear blue hats. I don't wear red hats. Like, what are we doing? And it was like, yeah, we heard something that was very interesting in your podcast. I was like, we say a lot of different shit. I was like, did you listen to the podcast? Because I don't know if you listened to the podcast. And I found myself in a really like uncomfortable position. And it was just like, I just went into my militant like factory settings. I was like, oh, you think this is how this is going to go? I'm going to be your token black guy? Nah, not gonna play that game.
I straight up tell people, you listen to my show, right? I'm like, I have not listened to it. I'm honestly wanting to know more about it, because what gets me to understand you is the authenticity in the conversation. Much like after this, I'm definitely, I'm going to be listening for sure. You got a fan here, just because I appreciate that. You know what I mean? I like having the conversations with people. I send messages out 50, 80 times a day to people, and I get constantly, is this spam? Is this, is that? Millions of questions to where they're auto fault answers. And it's not that I'm trying to be interpersonal. It's just, it's really hard because you'll spend so much time trying to get a guest, and the next thing you know, they're like, I don't feel like doing it. Especially I'm doing people that aren't podcasters also. So the next thing you go, you got people that are like, I don't feel comfortable being on the internet. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I'm cool with it. It happens and stuff too. But I just think the main thing is really like, I'm not out here to harm anybody. I got more of my own issues, if anything. But I just want to make sure, like, we can all have the conversation. We can all shoot the shit without knowing each other. We can all have that essential crab feast. You know what I mean? You get to meet some
Yeah.
great people. I met a good person today talking to you,
Likewise.
It's amazing to see that, we all think relatively similar. It's knocking down that guard. But I want to go back to what you said about the dating profile.
Yeah.
So I took that 2 ways. I've only signed up twice. I've done one that was a serious profile, which is a mistake you don't do on Tinder. I did a full out serious one. Like, obviously my gym pictures, me flexing. And then obviously I wrote like a bio, like actually looking for a good relationship, and nothing, no fucking swipes. Basically, I was like, I feel like shit. Then I went on Cougars Only. I did that because I wanted a grandma to take care of me. That's what
you
wanted.
sound like Dan right now, but go on.
That's what I fucking wanted. I said I want to get. What are you talking about? Okay, hold on.
It's like my co-host. He's like, yeah, I just want like a fat girl or a grandmother to take care of me. I still got it.
Take care of me. It's fine. I'll give you what you need as long as I can buy a Lexus. No.
Wow.
Not really a Lexus, but I mean, you want to have a little phone with some money. But like I really, when I was doing that, you get to see kind of the differences and stuff. But I also noticed that like I'm using this as a form of communication than rather going out and they talk about the whole hipster millennial generation. All these kids are never going to know what it's like to talk to a real woman over, like meet her in person, take her out to dinner, all this stuff. That's true. But also I noticed like I was so afraid of what people thought of me. Same thing when I started doing the podcast. I was like, just put yourself out there. What the fuck are you going to care about someone that you bump into for a minute and walk away? It's when you start wearing that sweatpants confidence when you go to the store. It's just you don't give a shit. I was like, I'll walk by. If I see a hot girl, I'll just stop and be like, hey, you're very pretty. And then, like, they say something back, I'll start up a conversation or I'll go. And my cousin's like, where did this confidence come from? I think it was like, because I don't give a shit anymore. Like, why the fuck was I caring so much to be afraid of like, oh my God, I don't want to say this because of that. And the next thing you know, it's like 5 years later, it's like, fuck, what happened? Like,
you say something with enough confidence, like you can not, and it's not like being a villain, not being an asshole, but you can say something that might be a little edgy. And if you say it with a certain amount of confidence, it's like, oh, it's like, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, tell me more. And it'll be a nothing conversation. I used to try that shit all the time. I was like, all right, I know that what this is. So let me just say something. Let me say something that's going to be unique. Let me say something that's going to be different. And I'll give you one pro tip. This is a real pro tip right here. Because some of those like the OkCupids, the Tinders, all of that shit, they can kill your confidence. You want a confident boost? Get on Grindr. Every guy will come at you like, hey man, you're hot. It's a nice ego stroke. It's a nice fucking ego stroke.
I saw that on How I Met Your Mother when they walk into the gay strip club and they're constantly getting on hit. I was like, I fucking love being here right now. I'm like, that's all we want. It doesn't matter who it comes from. I actually had a funny experience. I used to do jet skis back in the day, and where I work now, so like 7 years later, basically, the same girl works at this place too. So she saw me, she got me hired and everything. And as I'm walking, she goes, remember that time that gay guy hit on you? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I can't believe what you said. What happened was a guy came up to me who was obviously very flamboyant. I'm not against gay people. I mean, I was 20 something years old and I found out my grandma was a lesbian. So
good times.
I didn't even think of that one. That would fucking, you want to talk about a slap to the face. That was a shocker. I was like, holy shit, no fucking way. But a guy came up to me, very flamboyant, had his shirt kind of done up like a crop top. And he kind of comes up and goes, you're very cute. And I'm like, thank you. And he's like, do you want to go out? And I'm like, at this time, I cannot accept your request. But if you contact me, not now, but maybe if you contact me in the near future, say a few years down the line, I might have shifted my perspective, but I have to deny your request. And then he goes, okay. And I walked away. And she just looked at me and goes, did you just deny him in the most professional way possible? I was like, I'm working here. I'm starting off. I don't want to be a jerk. I don't want the boss to fire me if I'm rude to the customer. Because you just denied him like an application. I'm like,
yes, you did.
That's what he was doing. He was applying to get on this ass.
Yeah, I went out with some friends one year, and it was during Pride, and I just was oblivious to like it being Pride weekend, and we were at a bar that I was like, a lot of rainbows here today, and I'm just fucking being stupid. I'm not recognizing it, and I'm here, and I'm like, they were one of my buddies, and like one of his like chick friends, and I'm working an angle on her. And I noticed she knew that I was working the angle. So I'm just sitting there and I'm talking with her at the bar. My man is back there getting loose, doing his dance and all this shit. He's a dance guy. And And I'm like, yeah, saying whatever stupid shit I was fucking saying. And then some dude like pops up next to me, kind of like, thin white dude, what have you. And I was like, what the fuck does this dude want? And it was the fedora that caught my attention. I was like, I think he's interested. That's a fedora. And he offered to buy me a drink. And I was like, and I was like, I've never been on that side of rejecting someone, like ever. Like I never really a rejector. And she was like, you should take it. And I was like, no, that's an invitation. That's at least a conversation and a dance.
Why the fuck did a fedora become gay? When I was in middle school, I got a fedora that was skulls on it, like little tiny, like it was checkered with skulls in some of the checkers. Yeah. And I felt like such a fucking baller. And then I walked into school and I was like, oh, I'm a dick. Yeah. I'm a total piece of shit.
I mean, the pork pie is the move. If you can finesse a pork pie, you're good. Fedoras, they've become passe. They're chopped right now. You can't go with them.
Man, so many things got labeled in such the wrong ways. I feel like we should bring fedoras back.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be like, Big Fed. It's just like just got the.
You gotta have fedora. Like the freaking detective jacket with it though, like with the where he pulls out the Tommy gun. It's like
I'm like Perry Ellis and shit. I mean, yeah. Perry Mason and shit.
Fucking giant cigar in the mouth. I'm Al Capone or some shit that was able to rock it.
I'm a Dick Tracy villain, like, right? Yeah, but yeah, it's a thing, and I mean at that juncture, just showing like the maturation, I think I was more like, what the fuck, and not necessarily like freaked out or like this is weird or this is I hate this. Why are you talking to me? I was just like, I was like flattered, but also like surprised. Like, oh, okay, dude, cool. And like years later, I remember going to actually, it was a thing like, yo, let's go out for Pride Night. We can see some wild shit. And that's one of my buddies. And we just kind of kicked it and we got some drinks and we just watched people do their thing. And it's just like going back to it, like one of the kind of genesis kind of parts of the conversation, it's positive energy, and that's the month we're in too, right? Like it's positive energy. People are just having a fucking good time. They're just being them true selves and living their truths. And I think it's crazy, like not to want to be in it, like to be around people that are having that level of energy. And somebody may come to you in the wrong perspective. People do that shit all the time. But if you're there and they're just having a good time and you're having a good time and shit, culturally speaking, why not just fucking be a part of that energy and shit? That's the way that I like to look at it. Like, being at festivals, you may not be like, how like in New York, they'll have like Puerto Rican Day festivals, or they'll have like Chinese New Year's and things of that nature. And it's like, I'm not Puerto Rican, I'm not Chinese, but I get dipped in this culture. I feel like, oh, I got some good energy, I got some good vibes, I've learned some stuff. This feels good. And I think anything that's like that, I want to be a part of. I want to be where the party is at.
Damn it, Rob. It brings it back to the beginning.
Yeah.
The crab feast.
Yeah.
That's the essentiality of the crab feast, is that experience, man, that wholesomeness. Doesn't matter who the fuck you are. You're confined to a table. You got to sit there and talk to the person. You got to have a good time because you can't check your phone because you got Old Bay on your fingers.
Yeah.
And then also pick your own fucking crabs. I'm not doing it for you.
Absolutely. That's the thing that like my girlfriend is from New York, and she was like, I like crabs. She was like, I try not to pick them, and I joked about it. I was like, okay. Because I always would tell people, I was like, I don't eat chicken on the bone, nor do I pick my own crabs, because I'm a civilized man. And it's like, shut up. You're not a Baltimorean if you're not picking your own crabs. You're not from Maryland if you're not picking your own crabs.
Exactly.
So I instilled that in her. I was like, look, I'll pick your crabs for you, but you have to start doing this shit on your own.
I'm telling you. Now, what do you view on the mustard that's in the crab?
When I was younger, I take a little dab of it. I don't touch that shit. I don't eat that shit anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm just that guy that's like, I'm going to eat the whole fucking thing. My great-grandfather taught me the best advice. He goes, you suck on that chicken bone until all the meat's off the bone. He goes, you get the little bit of bone in there, that's extra protein. I'm like, all right, sir, you were raised in the Depression. I'm not going to argue.
Absolutely. It's one of those things. Like, I will tell you one thing that, because I know we're going to probably wrap up in a bit. I know one thing that I like to do now. I'm working on a recipe. Because I throw down in the kitchen. I cook as well, and we're trying to do some like food related content. One of the things we cover on the podcast is we cover like recent food news too. That's more of Dan's lane. He has a foodstagram called the Crown City Cook, and one of the things that we want to do is want to do a cookout like before the end of the year, before the end of the summer rather, maybe like mid July. And cause I just got this new like smoker, this wood smoker, what have you. And I was like, I'm gonna make smoked crab cakes. I think that's gonna be a move that I'm gonna do. And my crab cakes have a little bit of a Japanese influence because I use like QP and I use them for kaki and things like that. But I use probably 3-to-1 lump to claw meat and some panko. That's how I do my crab cakes, and they're huge. They're like fucking full like hand honking crab cakes. I do
Fucking
the
dinner
thing, man.
time for me, dude, right now. So like you're killing me here. But I think two things got to add to that. One, there's an article on Hot Ones by a sushi chef. He's an American sushi chef. He's
Yeah.
white. He talks about the struggles of trying to be a sushi chef and start his own business because the way when we order, if you say you want Chinese food, you go to a place that's run by Chinese people, sadly.
Yeah.
It's that whole typical thing. Mexican food's kind of the same difference. You got to look up his article. It's very inspiring to hear his story of he spent 10 years just working with rice before he was able to move up to touching the fish. Like he
Yeah.
spent all this travel and all this time until he finally created his own shop and started hiring white chefs and all this stuff, only because he would teach them the finer arts and the tradition and the culture behind this thing rather than just getting a job and taking it and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Two, you brought me back with the smoker thing on the crab cakes. Dude, a nice campfire, a roasted.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude. My dad used to wrap hot dogs and burgers in tinfoil and have it roasted over the campfire with like some like beans or some corn. Bro, man. Oh, God. I'm freaking drooling right now just talking about it.
It's a thing that's lost. Some of these things that we communicate through and we break bread through. And I think ultimately, as you've touched on, that's just a new millennial version of that for what your podcast is. And we lost that, but I think it's not. I think we haven't lost. I think we've missed it. It's not so far away that we can't get back to it. And I think that's the thing that we have to do because all the conversation is getting lost. Like I think podcasters it's a thing in like African culture. They call it griots, like people who tell like the history and the stories and stuff. It's kind of like one of those things like, yo, fucking let's get back to how we would talk to people. Let's get back to actually having a conversation, whether it be let's break out the bottle of scotch, let's have a conversation, let's talk about the universe and shit. And people don't do that as much anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's going to become a little bit more of a trend now. I think people are starting to notice like we're sparking out with a lot of hate right now, only because we've been locked down and it's hard to fall back into a system that now we're seeing we don't want to fall back into.
You see the strings, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also going to open up to people to where, like I always talked about, like with the COVID situation, it's not going to last. This new normal thing is not going to be forever. It's the same thing I got when I experienced like a near-death experience. It's after 2 weeks, it'll change. It was just like with 9/11. A lot of stuff was tough for a hard time. Then eventually we got past it and we got back to normal. I want it to go back to normal, but I also want us to remember the fact that everyone is a person. Everyone's got thoughts and emotions. There are people that I've lost through this pandemic. People that have committed suicide, business owners, because their business their whole life work is gone. I just think the best thing out there is we're never going to see us help in mental illness or depression or anything if we can't help our neighbor, if we can't help anybody beside us.
Well said. Yeah.
So is there any way you want to wrap this up, Rob? I want you to promote your podcast. Obviously, again, tell people where they can find you at.
Yeah, you can find me every week on Mastermind Team's Robcast and on Fridays. Mastermind Team Robcast on Tuesdays. And on Fridays.
Go back. On what day was Mastermind?
Oh, Mastermind Team's Robcast is every Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. And on Fridays, Getting to the Truth in This Art. They go up every week. I think this upcoming episode for Robcast drops tomorrow, usually around 9, maybe 10. Kind of doing some final touches on that. And there's a good episode of Getting to the Truth in This Art that's popping up. It's a interview with one of the 2 Black-owned donut shops in the East Coast of the U.S. called Blondie's Donuts, and that's in Baltimore. And their donuts are fucking phenomenal. So definitely, it's definitely a Baltimore podcast. Both of them, just the network is very Baltimore. We try to represent the East Coast, and you can find us on all the podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all of the places. And social media, you can find me on Lord Lee MTR on the tweets and on the gram, and Mastermind Team's Robcast. Just search for it. And as far as MTR Podcast, that's our group handle. That's on iTunes. I mean, it's on Instagram and on Twitter. So yeah, definitely drop us a line. Want to collab, link up? You can have my lovely voice on your podcast sooner than later.
Sprinkle Old Bay on that shit.
Yeah.